TD Cowen noting today the Veep Hope Bowl has raised concerns about the effect large tech platforms could have on democracy and workers. Going on to say, should Trump be reelected, Vance could have a major impact on tech policies and regulation, especially given his time at Peter Thiel's VC firm in the 2010s. Let's bring in the analyst behind the note, TD Cowen's Paul Gallant. Paul, it's great to have you here. So the Biden administration, we've been doing kind of a little bit of going back in the history books. The Biden administration, other than maybe the AT&T deal for time, no. Anyway, there was not much that they were trying to stop. Why do we really think that a new administration would be more proactive, more like Lina Khan in trying to block many deals from happening?
Yeah, I think going into yesterday, I'd say before yesterday, we felt pretty good about what a Trump victory would mean for the tech sector, mostly deregulation. But if you listen to what Senator Vance has said over the past couple of years, including where he used to work, which is Silicon Valley, trying to fund companies that challenge the big tech companies, I think if Vance is the biggest voice in Trump's era in tech policy, that's going to shift our view a bit toward being more cautious in what Washington means for the biggest tech companies over the next few years.
But only in the area of big tech?
Big tech is the biggest difference, I think. And the reason is, here's how I would explain it. I think a reelected President Trump would want to let the biggest tech companies dominate Gen AI for the next 10 years because Gen AI is helping drive the stock market higher. And I think President Trump views the stock market as his daily report card on how he's doing. I think J.D. Vance looks at AI as an opportunity to disrupt the biggest tech companies. And so if Vance wins that debate within the White House, that's a very different set of policies the next few years than what I expected.
Well, in a way, Paul, this doesn't surprise me because first time around, President Trump thrived in unpredictability, right? And in challenging traditional power structures. It's not like he seemed to be a big fan of Mark Zuckerberg or necessarily what Google was doing. So doesn't this provide a potential Trump administration the second time around with optionality on what it's going to do and keep some of these Silicon Valley titans on their toes?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think the way I think about Vance as kind of intellectual support for a lot of Trump's instincts toward big tech. And, Vance spoke at a conference a couple of months ago, and he said, look, he's not sure exactly where Trump's going to land on a lot of tech policies, but he did specifically call out Google and Meta as companies that are basically in the way of Trump's agenda. And he seemed to support that. So if Vance is given the tech portfolio within the White House, and he has sort of day-to-day focus on it in a way that a president really cannot, that could be a problem for these guys. And what I mean specifically is if Vance is allowed to basically pick the people who run the FTC and the DOJ antitrust division and the Commerce Department, which all run tech policy, there's actually an analogy to the Clinton days. Back in the Clinton days, Clinton handed off telecom policy to VP Gore. Gore picked the head of the FCC and influenced him in a very anti-incumbent direction. So if that's the analogy that Trump has for Vance and he lets Vance run tech, that's a different outcome than I was expecting a few days ago.
But I would draw a distinction between, it seems like former President Trump wanted to have more of an impact on how some of these big tech companies operate, the types of decisions they make about what content gets out there, but not so much restrict their M&A. And a lot of these libertarian-leaning voices in Silicon Valley that are backing former President Trump right now would very much like these big tech companies to be able to buy their startups, no?
Yeah, that's the big divide in Silicon Valley. You're right. There's venture capitalists who want to fund companies that exit to the big tech companies, and there are venture capitalists who want to build companies that challenge the big tech companies. And if you look at what J.D. Vance has said, he wants these companies to rise up and challenge big tech, not just get bought by them. And that's really, as you said, fundamentally different from where the other side of Silicon Valley is.